at the end of the day, it was like, I'm still trying to find a way to grow up. You know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to be? I obviously ain't gonna be my mom. I appreciate there's certain things I take from her, but she's mom. She's a mom. I'm a man, so what do I do? And so I think from an early age, I was already in a path of trying to seek mentoring. We have the roughnecks, you have the educated ones. Who do I want to be? Do I want to represent as this big thug, right? Because I end up being 6 foot 235, strong, or do I want to be something more? So AJ Donaldson, South Florida native, grew up in Miami Beach. Was actually born and raised in Opa-locka, as we always talk about the mean streets of Opa-locka back in the day. I am the CEO and founder of United Mentors, LLC. And recently we evolved to a nonprofit model that in 2014 we established the EPIC Foundation. EPIC stands for Experienced Professionals Impacting Communities. And I feel strongly that's what I've evolved into, because that's what I needed in my life growing up. That's what I sought after readily to try to be as successful as possible. And I was raised in Opa-locka, so from the age of, say, 1 or 2, whatever that age was, my mom moved into this home that she bought, and got on her own money, her own hustle. She got this house in Opa-locka, and it was funny because we lived on this one street that was kind of like a safe haven in the middle of chaos, right? And I'll never forget a Superior Street. I had Burger King right there in that corner, 27 Superior Street, that went all the way back to the canal. And you made that left turn, and it was just like, it was more of a homely family environment. But leading up to that one street, it was rough. Being at those young ages where you were playing kickball in the streets, like I said, riding your bike down the neighborhood, you would take a wrong turn or, be trying to play hide and go seek and find yourself in a very bad position, right? I remember a story in particular where, and I take pride in the story as a young man, but much bigger guy, let's say he was in his teens, late teens, maybe even early 20s. I'm 9, you know what I mean? Age of my son right now. I'm a hefty 9, but I'm still 9 years old. And he took my bike, right? I had the bike there, we were playing kickball, and he just starts riding my bike straight up. And obviously you're gonna feel a certain way, right? So I'm saying, but he's much bigger than me, and you don't really wanna say anything to him, but at a certain point, mom says to be home, I gotta get my bike and go home. And of course, he's like, well, what are you gonna do about it? That challenge. And, what are you gonna say? Like, look, just give me my bike, and trying to defend yourself. And I remember, he was resisting me, and he started riding. At that time, Ninja Turtles was really hot. So I had one of these sticks on my back, like a Donatello type jazz. So he started riding my bike, and I threw the staff, let's say, through the spokes of the bike, and he went flipping off. And I jumped on that bike, and I rode as fast as I could home, and I did not go back on the streets for like a month. I would not go anywhere near that area because I knew it went down until finally I creeped up the courage to finally venture, and I think they were long gone at that point. So it was the dynamic that you got used to that became the norm until then you were upplucked. So let's back up a little bit. My mom meets some guy, obviously I love my mom, I give her all the props in the world for raising me, for keeping me away from certain influences and so forth. But ultimately, as a young man, you don't see that father dynamic. So now, crazy story is now here she is dating this man from church, right? And he comes in and it's like immediately, right? A very sensitive heart. There's those voids that I'm thinking he's gonna fill. So immediately I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be my dad. This is gonna be my father. This is gonna be my dad. Then they get married and it's a completely estranged relationship. Right? I remember fighting this man physically at 10, 11 years old before we actually moved out of that place. It's like, what was going on in me that made me who I am to this day, right? At the end of the day, it was like, I'm still trying to find a way to grow up. You know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to be? I obviously ain't gonna be my mom. I appreciate there's certain things I take from her, but she's mom. She's a mom. I'm a man, so what do I do? And so I think from an early age, I was already in a path of trying to seek mentoring, right? See who can teach me or who can give me what I'm looking for, because it didn't work out with stepdad. Do I want to represent as this big thug, right? Because I end up being 6 foot 235, strong, or do I want to be something more? And I'm thankful that I had an opportunity. The whole dynamic of her moving to this new neighborhood in Monterey allowed us to have an opportunity for me to attend a private school. So it wasn't until, I'll probably say well into like the 17, 18, like transition into college years, I think I had some very dynamic and very impactful individuals that came and went. Dr. Andy Macias Murphy, who was a dynamic influence in my life in the junior high years, when I just didn't think I could read well. Come to find out, the way my mind works, because it's so mathematical, I was counting letters in words before I was actually reading the word. So that split-second moment would make me hesitate, because I know how my mind works. I'm more aware of myself, so I'm able to, shift. Like, all right, stop doing that. From young age, she helped identify that in me. But it wasn't until after I graduated from UM that I found a gentleman who was a very dynamic influence in my life, who dropped some serious knowledge and wisdom. It wasn't really until well into my 20s, early 20s, that it actually happened. When I mentioned earlier, single family home, that those times where you're questioning everything, like, where's my dad, right? What is all this, in that meaning of life, that proverbial questioning? People say, well, why am I here, right? What am I here to do? What am I here to be? Yeah, I started playing the piano at a young age, and I have a certain level of proficiency in it. Yeah, I'm good at football. But football for me early on ended up becoming more of a escape haven, because I would hold all of it in and I would let it out on the field, and it was like therapy for me. I'm a jack of all trades, but I'm a master of none. And it would almost be a burden, really, because people are like, oh, but you're good at this, and you're good at that, and you're good at this. And I can sit here, I remember when I graduated college and football, quote unquote, didn't work out, right? I didn't make it to the NFL, I didn't get recruited. That didn't work out, and I sat before my mentor, the gentleman I mentioned earlier, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what the direction to go on, because I'm a jack of all trades. I just need to figure out what I'm great at. What am I the best at? What can no one touch me on? And I remember sitting there and I wrote out a list of like 12, 13 things plus. And my mentor at the time, Bishop Dwayne Swilly, he told me, he was like, which one of these paths will give you the lifestyle that you want? And that was such a profound question, right? Because I didn't look at it that way. I was 31 years old and I was angry. I remember I was like, I'm talking about yelling at God, like angry, right? Why did you do this to me? Why do I have all this crap? I don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. I just felt like I couldn't sleep. I was frustrated. It was affecting my relationship. We had miscarriages, real life happening, you know what I'm saying? Like stuff that they don't talk about. They don't mentor you on. They don't share with you. People keep this close to the chest. They don't really talk about these things, right? But at a certain point, I recognized it was almost like literally like God got in a car and just jaw-jacked me. He was like, stupid, this is what you're good at. He was like, the reason why I gave you so many gifts and talents is because I wanted you to be an example. I wanted you to be a mentor. Like mentoring, academics, education, math in particular. I had this ability to disseminate information. I had this ability to be able to identify with the individual I was speaking with, and that was because I was a jack of all trades. I had a time, a part of my life that was in multi-facets, right? If it was I can identify well with a 330-pound defensive lineman, because I played D lineman in high school, or I can identify with a 90-pound little, ballerina girl from the burbs. You know what I'm saying? Like I could shift very easily in order to reach them. You know what I mean? So that's why that sacrifice of my life made sense. Finally, at 33 years old, married with 2 kids, all this time, finally identify like, oh, this is who I was meant to be. So coming out of University of Miami, finding myself back in the community, and then Don McNeil's daughter, it's always a story we've told timelessly, or time and time again, that his daughter was struggling. This was a straight A student, but she was getting a D or F in his class, and he, asked me to come over and help her. And I got involved. She ended up getting a B in the class, but there was a very dynamic relationship that was developed there, like a little sister, right? So this more of a mentor than just this tutor. And even though I was focused on the academics, I was revealing more of the actual bigger picture of what was going on and what she was being herded through called our educational system. And when she had a chance to see it from a different perspective, it released her, it freed her to the reality of what her situation really was. She just thought she was dumb at math. So here she is thinking, because of the environment she was in, the instructor that was before her, that she was terrible at this particular subject. To this day, this is a career woman who works in math, by the way, right? And doing very well for herself. So, that story is to say, that's why I do what I do today, because obviously the way this child was actually being taught, or how much this child was actually obtaining, did not sit, right? There was no mastery. I would have kids crying. Oh, this teacher said I would be terrible at math. All this psychological damage that was happening to these kids. So it was more than just tutoring. I knew that for a fact. I'm like, this is not just tutoring. You don't just get the Poindexter who's really good at math. Oh, this is how you do it. ABC, 2, 1, 2, 3, done. No, I had to reach into their soul sometimes and bring them back out of this void and this darkness that they were in, to say, no, you can do this. It's okay. The level of growth we've experienced over this year and a half in the midst of a pandemic says it all. It goes without saying to say that we grew where a lot of people failed and declined. We were propelled. So it says a lot about the mission of the Epic Foundation. And I don't want to belabor the point too much, but ultimately, we got about 8 minutes before people come up here for the cocktail hour from 7 to 8. I want everybody to have a good time. We got a lot that we've got to do tonight in a very short period of time, because I'm trying to get to the party as soon as possible. Everybody agree with me? As soon as possible. So we want to get the formalities out of the way, and obviously this is a very important segment to be able to now represent what the Epic Foundation is all about in the future we have ahead of us, because our past is in the past. We've learned a lot, we've grown, we have an extremely bright future, as you can clearly see. Academically, you cannot see these kids endeavoring to reaching the college experience if you haven't supported them, especially in the high school years, when it comes to their GPA, become these classes. So we've recognized that something is a little hinky in the education system. And I'm here like, hey, I've been preaching this for the last 15 years, right? And developing expertise behind it. So I'm saying, okay, here are these gaps, but why not get the community involved, right? But it would take an organization to do that, to organize, because that takes time, that takes operations, that takes an effort really to do that. And people are already caught up in what they're doing. I'm a teacher, I'm an administrator. I ain't got time to be starting a nonprofit organization that's going to bring together a bunch of experienced professionals who are actually thriving in a particular lane. So I said, all right, here goes again. Here's the mantle, right? I'm already making money in education through United Mentors, through the tutoring industry that is now a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so all this just motivated me, where like I couldn't sleep now, but it wasn't in a bad way. I was just hyped, right? I would have all this stuff kind of pouring in my mind that I would have to write down, like, oh, that's good. And that'd be amazing for marketing in the future, and just help educate consumers, right? It's not, help manipulate them into paying you money. Help educate them in understanding how there's a true solution that can support getting to the goal that you want, because every parent on this planet wants their child to be successful. So just amazing stories like that. Epic Foundation, 2014, 15, and then every year after that, just the stories continue to grow and compound. United Mentors is still doing a very dynamic thing in the community, but that's for homes that are moderate to high income who can afford for-profit services, right? I had to recognize that my passion was truly about making an impact. It wasn't about just the dollar sign, right? As a 16-year-old kid, it was about the money, right? I only played football because I thought I could potentially get a scholarship to pay for my tuition, which didn't happen. I only played football and provided the service I did for them on the field because I thought maybe it'll propel me to a place of influence and affluency that I could set my mom free, which didn't happen, right? So all these things were my motivation then, but it transitioned into recognize what matters most, right? It's the legacy I'm gonna leave, right? It's the fact that I can't take this with me, right? And even though I am creating generational wealth for my child and my children, at the end of the day, it's really that equity, right? That human equity of the impact, because that has no dollar sign.